You know what's strange? Some of the most intelligent, emotionally aware people you'll ever meet are also some of the most exhausted. Not from doing too much, but from thinking too much. They replay conversations that ended hours ago. They map out scenarios that may never happen. They lie awake at 2 a.m., not because something went wrong, but because their mind refuses to stop asking, what if? And here's the psychological paradox at the heart of this. The very habit that makes someone thoughtful, careful, and empathetic is the same habit that quietly drains them. Today, we're going to explore the psychology of people who think too much, what's actually happening in their brain, why it develops, and what it really says about who they are. Let's start with what researchers call this pattern. Psychologists refer to it as maladaptive rumination, a tendency for the mind to circle back to the same thought loops, especially around uncertainty, past events, or social situations. Studies from places like Yale and the University of Michigan show that people who ruminate aren't doing so because they're weak or overly anxious. In many cases, they're doing it because their brain is exceptionally good at pattern recognition. It's always scanning, always processing, always searching for meaning. The problem isn't intelligence, it's that the system never receives a signal to stop. Neurologically, this involves the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, analysis, and self-reflection. In overthinkers, this region tends to stay highly active even during rest. At the same time, the brain's default mode network, its background processing system, keeps generating an ongoing internal monologue. The result? A mind that's always online, always reviewing, always drafting responses to conversations that haven't even happened yet. What's even more interesting is that this pattern rarely begins in adulthood. For many overthinkers, it starts much earlier, in childhood or adolescence, often in environments where outcomes felt unpredictable. When a child grows up in a home where moods shift without warning, or where mistakes carry heavy consequences, the brain learns a very logical survival strategy. Think ahead, anticipate everything. Because if you can predict what's coming, maybe you can protect yourself. Seen this way, overthinking isn't a flaw, it's an adaptation, a very intelligent nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. Now, here's something important. Not all overthinking looks the same. Psychologists generally describe two types. The first is reflective rumination, where a person turns inward to understand themselves, process emotions, and make sense of the world. When balanced, this can be a genuine strength. It's linked to higher emotional intelligence and deeper self-awareness. The second is brooding rumination, a more passive and often distressing pattern of dwelling on problems without moving toward resolution. This is where overthinking begins to take a toll on sleep, on decision-making, on social confidence. The challenge is that most people move between both states, often without noticing. A moment of reflection can slowly turn into a spiral. And because the thinking feels productive, because your mind is active, it's hard to recognize when you've crossed the line. Cytologists call this the illusion of mental progress. It feels like you're solving something, but you're actually just looping. And this is where brain chemistry plays a role. Each time you analyze a situation, even an imagined one, your brain releases small amounts of dopamine. Not because you found a solution, but because you're engaging in the act of problem solving. So the mind gets rewarded just for thinking. This is why telling someone to just stop thinking about it doesn't work. The brain has a built-in incentive to keep going. So what does this pattern actually reveal about a person? Research offers a surprising answer. A 2013 study published in Psychological Science found that people who ruminate more, also tend to score higher in cognitive empathy, the ability to understand and anticipate how others feel. They're more sensitive to social nuance, more aware of how words land, more attuned to the emotional atmosphere in a room. In other words, the same system that makes overthinking exhausting is also what makes these individuals deeply perceptive. But perception without resolution is draining. That's the tension overthinkers live with. They notice everything. They feel every possibility. And yet, the more they think, the harder clarity becomes. Because here's the quiet truth. The mind cannot think its way out of every problem. Some things must be felt, some must be decided, and some must simply be released. Therapists who work with chronic overthinkers don't focus on stopping thoughts entirely. Instead, they focus on changing the relationship to those thoughts. One approach, acceptance and commitment therapy, introduces a concept called cognitive defusion. It means learning to observe your thoughts without becoming entangled in them. Instead of thinking, "This situation is dangerous, I need to solve it now," you begin to notice, "My mind is generating a concern right now." It's a small shift, but a powerful one. One pulls you into the storm. The other gives you space to step back. And maybe that's what all of this really points to. Overthinking is not a defect. It is not weakness. It is a highly active mind that once learned to stay alert in an uncertain world. The goal isn't to silence that mind completely. The goal is to gently teach it that it is finally safe enough to rest. Because in the end, we all carry patterns shaped by experiences we didn't choose. Understanding them won't erase them overnight, but it will change how much control they have over us. And sometimes, that understanding is exactly where healing begins.